Hi and welcome to Fantasy Footy Fam. Jeff here. Hopefully you had a better week than I did. I had a shocker. Have you ever had one of those rounds where you had these 50-50 calls to make, 50-50 trades to make, and none of them went your way? Well, that was the week that I had. Now, this is not going to be every week, but it's just one of those weeks where, your premiums don't fire, your pods don't fire, and then you end up with a score like this. So I got a 2172, a round 4 rank of 57,827. So after a pretty good start to the season, it's dropped off a little bit, but it's still very early. And even though it was round 4, and it was a round with no buys, you shouldn't really be worried about where your rank is. Need to be concerned to some degree, but it's nothing you can't come back from. So my season rank dropped by 8,661 spots. I'm now ranked 19,563, but look, I can feel I can come back from that. It was just one of those rounds where it just didn't really go my way. So having a look at my team, initially I made, as I mentioned, I made some trades, and I think for me, if you've been following my videos, I am always going to feel pretty gutted that I didn't stick to my plan. The plan, and this is what happens in SuperCoach. You have a plan, but when you don't execute it, you don't follow through, you get sucked in by some of the performances and you make these trades you would normally make, then this is kind of what happens. And I had a plan from the very beginning, from round 1, that when I got to round 3, I would trade Grundy down to Sherry. I would trade Powell to Sheasel. And I would bring in a rookie, which in this case would have been Clark to Dempsey. Now, those trades would have been perfect because it would have meant that I would have gotten Sheasel scores, I would have gotten Sherry scores, and I would have kept Hayden Young and Nick Martin. But instead, what did I do? I traded Young to Sheasel, and I've had Powell score this round. I had his bye last week and then Powell this week getting a 59, so that's killed me. That was just stupid. Young's been doing awesome, obviously, and Martin has been great. Sarong was okay, pretty good last week, and a 94 this week. So this is what happens. You make these calls, you go against what your plan is, and it tends to bite you. And once again, I've kind of done something similar this round. I traded Fife to Dempsey, which obviously Dempsey's going to pay off in the long run, but Fife had a pretty good game this round. So he had a 102. And what does that mean? Well, now his break-even's gone down to 26. He made 26k. He's 345k, which means if you've got him and you kept him, well done. That's great, because that's all he needed was a decent score, and he's come good. The other mistake I made was I traded out Sexton for Sam Darcy, and that's okay. That trade was all right, except I had Darcy on my bench and Cadman on my field, and that was obviously a mistake as well. A 50-50 call that just didn't go my way. At least with Dempsey, he got an 80, so I'm pretty happy with that. He's going to continue to get around 70 to 80 and make cash, so that'll be good. But I feel like I can really come back from this. Looking at my team, particularly with my VC and my C, that was the other 50-50 call I didn't go with. I had the V on Gawn, and most of you would agree, well, when you get a 129 as your vice captain, then you take that 129. But I had the captain on Heaney. I had it on all week, and I was thinking, should I? In fact, at one stage, just before the rounds were starting, I had the C on Heaney. I thought, I reckon Heaney will do better with than Gawn's score. But Adams was in the side. I just wasn't sure what to do, so I took it off. I took the score, went the conservative route, and then Heaney pulls out a 165. So, but that's SuperCoach, right? It's all what ifs at times. If I'd only done this, if I'd only done that, it would have worked out so much better. And that's what separates, I guess, the ones who are really successful. And I've had some pretty successful years in SuperCoach, but then there's just some years where things just don't go your way. And so far, the 50-50 calls aren't going my way. But, I'm going to try to turn it around. I'll make a couple of trades this week, and hopefully that can turn around. But at some point, I do need to pull back on the trades. The early buy rounds are to, adjust and fix your team and get it the way that you want, get the rookies right. But then after that, I probably do need to just take it easy with the trades, let the rookies build cash, and then make the occasional trade here and there, or when other players are starting to max out. Unfortunately, in this round, I had some pretty underperforming premiums. Now, Powell isn't necessarily a premium, but he has been averaging quite well, and he only scored a 59. Sarong, a 94 after these last few rounds. To be honest, it was to be expected, I guess, playing against Carlton. They do quite well against the mids, although I think I'll have to check later, but I think Brayshaw may have done okay. But look, Rosie came through. Big 152 from him. But Miller, 89, LDU, 88. Like, that's horrible. Like, there's no way you can be competitive when your premiums are scoring 89 and 88. Tom Green was projected to get a 161. Now, we knew he wasn't going to do that, but a 109, look, that's all right. He's still got a 109. You can't complain about that, but the form he's been in, you'd expected him to have gotten at least a 120. So that kind of hurt. Jackson's been going down as well after a good start. And the other mistake I made, this is what happens when you got your trades planned, but you're not thinking too deeply about them. This is all my fault. Really missed this trade out, but I could have made the Jordan to Flanders trade this week, as in last week, because I was going to make it this coming week when Jordan's on his bye, but it made no sense why I wouldn't have done that trade last week. I could have done it. I had the boost. I could have used it, but I didn't. I thought Jordan's playing West Coast. He's going to earn quite a bit, but in the end I've lost cash on that trade, and now I will be still making the trade this week, but I could have made it last week where it was a bit cheaper to make the trade, and I would have had Flanders score instead of Jordan. So again, a bit of an error on my part in making that trade. Of course, as maybe some of you, I had Sharp on the bench, a 126 on the bench. But you're not going to know these things. You're not going to know that Sharp's going to score a 126. If any of us have had Roberts, McKercher, or Sanders, you tend to pick those three ahead of Sharp. So that was a bit disappointing. I could have loopholed it if I had had a player not playing, but I couldn't do that. All my players are playing. So yeah, that sort of really didn't work out very well. So not a great week for me this week, and it's important to just acknowledge, when you have a bad week, you just have a bad week. Even in my fantasy team, it was just one of those bad weeks where just things didn't really work out. But you just pull your socks up and you dust yourself off, and you get back into it again. You look at your team, you do the same research. And then you make those calls and stick to your plans and strategy. So going through some of the, injuries and other bits of information, I'm sure there were some things there, some injuries. I had a little look around. I couldn't really find or see anything of a serious note, but I'll go through the usual thing and look through the matches, have a look through the scores. But as far as injuries go, looking at the previous injury list, you've got some players who are slowly starting to come back. I did dropped a video just before the first game of round 4, talking about some of the injuries and things of last week. That was in the injury report. But yeah, this week, you got players like Sam Walsh on the verge of coming back, and a few others. getting close, but we'll have to look at that report when it comes out on Tuesday and make our assessments from there. But looking at the Crows and Melbourne game, so Rory Laird continues on his way, and he's one that is a premium. He is a top 8 mid, and he's been doing his job. 124, 120, 111, 116. So, good on you if you started him. Is he an option to bring in? Look, yeah, if you feel that Rory Laird's going to be a top 8 mid and you feel he's good value, then yeah, he's the one. He's one definitely worth going with. Jordan Dawson, I think, if you don't own him, if you do own him, you're probably really tempted to trade him out if you haven't already, just because, like, if you look at his scores, look at that, 82, 96, 68, 99. He is so much better than that. But looking at his scores, at his break even is a 151. He's dropped 91k, dropped another 34k. You're keeping a very close eye on him. If he can sort of drop a little bit further, because there's no way he's going to continue to play. He'll get back. I mean, I haven't looked at. Actually, let me just have a look now. So, look, his efficiency wasn't as bad as what it has been in the past. 73% efficiency and only one clanger. So that's all right. No free kicks against. So pretty much in this game, it actually was the fact that he just didn't get enough of the ball. He had 23 possessions. 15 kicks, 5 tackles. He kicked a goal, but only translated to 99 SuperCoach points. So let's continue to just keep an eye on him till he really bottoms out, and then look at maybe bringing him in if you feel that he's going to really turn his form around. Matt Crouch, some would have started him or brought him in. He scored a 97. He had 30 possessions, but as usual with Matt Crouch, 20 of those were handballs. And he had 11 contested, which is great for him. But in his case, the 97 points was affected by the fact that he had 66% disposal efficiency, which is not the best. It's not really bad, but it's bad enough to have not let his score go over 100. But if you've got Matt Crouch, like, that's what you're going to be expecting from him. He's going to get anywhere between 95 and 110 every week. And considering his prior scores, 114, 128, 110, you're still really happy if you've got him. He's 11% owned now, so he's still making his owners very happy. Looking through the rest of the Adelaide team, so Sam Berry continues to be a real disappointment. Hopefully we've all jumped off him. And then moving over to Melbourne, so Petrarca, he continues to put up big numbers. He's going to be a top 8 mid for sure. He's averaging 122, and that's kind of what I predicted for him. I reckon anywhere between a 120, 125 is what he'll average. He put up a 140 this round, which was fantastic. He had kicked a goal, 15 contested, and 29 possessions. So, yeah, fantastic pick, and definitely a premium, and he's definitely performing. And that's the thing. Every SuperCoach year, there's your premiums that just continue on, do the thing that they do, but there's some premiums that drop off. We think about Dawson, for example, Goulder to some degree at the start of the year in the first couple of games. LDU, a few thought he would do well, and then he played that bad preseason game and then had a 121 in his first game, and everyone thought, oh, he's going to do great. And just, look, I watched that game, and I watched him closely because LDU is in my team. And I do love watching LDU play. In fact, he and Horn Francis, I think, play very similarly. Similar kind of body types, or explosive, that kind of thing. But if you look at Horn Francis, he is exhilarating to watch. You look at LDU, and he looks either that he's lazy or that he's just not really trying. You see a little bursts of him trying, but then you just don't see what we saw last year when he had that string of awesome games. So is he carrying an injury? I don't really know. But he just doesn't look the same player. But we'll get to North in a moment. But yeah, Petrarca doing well. Gawn continued, his good run of form. He's been a great value start pick. And look at that, 162, 113, 177, 129. This is what we expected from him. And so, yeah, I'm really happy I started him. Can you bring him in? Well, he's 666k now. So, look, him and English are going to be the top two rucks. Marshall will be around the mark, but yeah, Max and English, and that's who you're hoping to try to end with. I'm looking at trying to bring English in this week. While we're talking about him, might as well just bring him up. But he dropped another 10k. His break-even's 154. He's dropped 23k so far. I don't see him dropping all that much. But if you look at his scores, 119, 138, 124, 117, he's great. Such an awesome ruck. And I think, who's he got this coming week? See, he's got Essendon, which means he's rucking against Draper and Goldstein. So you'd expect another decent score for English. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you can maybe wait another week, see how much he drops. He might drop another 10k. But I am looking at maybe I've got a couple of options here. I'll actually go through my trades later. I had an initial plan of what I wanted to do from round one when I got to this stage. And then there's an alternative option, but I've learnt my lessons not backing my plans. So we'll discuss trades a little bit later. Looking at the rest of Melbourne, and so Viney did his usual thing where he starts off really well and then he gets a few of these average games. He got an 81, by the way. And so Clayton Oliver continues to be a real disappointment. Like, he's going to bottom out big time. So he only scored a 62, only 16 possessions from 75% game time. But what actually made that worse was he had 4 free kicks against him. So he's lost 16 points there. He's had 5 clangers. So he's lost 36 points there. And his disposal efficiency was 43%. So with the clangers and the free kicks against, that's 36 points, and then you can imagine how many points he would have lost with 43% efficiency. So he did not have a great game statistically at all, and that's 46k he dropped, 130 now in total. His break-even's 156. Will he get his form back? I think if you started him, do you just keep riding it out? He's only in 3% of teams, or do you just jump off? I think. Yeah, it's so hard. You're just hoping for his form to turn around, but he just keeps putting out these scores. Like, look at 62. Like, that is his worst score so far out of the 5 games he's played. So, but I guess we're keeping an eye on him if you don't own him, which most of us don't, to see if we can get him at a bargain price and bring him in when hopefully his form turns around. Looking further, so Caleb Windsor got a 61, so that's pretty good if you still own him. He's owned by 35%, so that's a decent amount. He made 11k, break even of 22, so it looks like he's a bit of a slow burn. Maybe you just ride that out if you own him. You wouldn't be looking at bringing him in. Jack Billings, well, he continues to be a disappointment, 54 for him. You're trying to, if you own him, you're really trying to cut him as quick as you can. He actually lost money this round. He lost 4k, break even of 76 now. And look, he's made cash for you if you started him. He's still made cash. So maybe it's time now to just jump off if you haven't already. And then for Melbourne, Salem continues to be disappointing, 51. Blake Howes. Okay, so Blake Howes is interesting. He got a 46, but if you have a look at his score, so 57% owned. So this applies to a lot of us, but look at that, 26 and 46. So that's not ideal. And just having a look at his other stats. Yeah, just look, I think for him now, I mean, his break even is 56 now. So maybe he has made all the cash he's going to make. I mean, he's got the potential to put out an 80 and then squeeze out more cash, but when you've got maybe if you need some cash to upgrade elsewhere, maybe that's the trade to make, particularly because we are looking at players to bring in this week, and we'll get to Sam Clowassy in a minute. But yeah, you might be looking at trading Howes. I've got Hoare as well, but I think I'll probably be trade Howes now for the cash, and maybe Hoare at a later date. And so that's probably it for Melbourne. Moving on to the Brisbane and North game. So Lachie Neale, he got subbed off, but it was he was being tagged by Wardlaw for a little while and watching that game, but then it ended up being quite a loose tag, if anything. But there was a little bit, as far as the injury goes, he had his right ankle iced up at the end of the game, but maybe that was just precaution. Well, we don't know, but he's doing all right. So he was on the bubble last week, but he's in pretty decent form. So like 112, 129, 125, you can't really argue with that. He's gone up 6K, 623K, do you bring him in? I mean, is he going to be a top 8 mid? Is he looking like the Neale of old? I mean, I guess these are all the questions we've got to ask ourselves. But yeah, I don't think I would be looking at him, but I can understand if you do. Dunkley is the other one, and he scored a 125, so another good score from Dunkley. Where's he at? So scores of 101, 113, 96, and now finally a 122, something worthy of his price tag. And so he's lost 36k overall. Lost another nearly 10k this week, so he's at 607k, and his break even's 129. So look, he is an option, but there might be some other value picks that you could look at. But yeah, I wouldn't be looking at Dunkley for me personally. Looking through, so good to see Kai Lohmann. He was supposed to be a sort of a good pick initially, and he scored an 88. So with scores of 33, 17, 18, yeah, because he was subbing on and off. Now an 88, which was really good. It was against North, though, I guess. Break even of negative 14. He's 161k now. So if you feel that he's going to be putting out these kinds of numbers, that maybe he could be a rook you could bring on in your forward line if you're desperate. And looking else through Brisbane, no one else really to talk about. Looking at North always have a lot of players to talk about, and what a performance from Comben. His first game for the year, and he's put out a 129 playing down in defence, and he looked fantastic watching this game, and took a lot of intercept marks, and just what a game. 25 possessions, 8 marks, 5 tackles, 9 contested as well, and good efficiency, 80% disposal efficiency, 94% game time, a lot of time on the ground, a 129. So let's keep our eye on him. If he's got good job security and good form. He's 22.7k, break even of negative 40. So let's maybe wait till he plays one more game and then consider whether he is worth bringing in and whether he can make that cash for us. Sheasel, once again, a great score. We know what we're going to get from Sheasel now every week. Look at those scores, 130, 113, 128, 124. So that's I'm just really happy I have Sheasel. I just wish I had traded Powell for Sheasel, and I had Young in my team still. Just a big mistake there. But he'll continue to put out scores. The other big mistake, obviously, looking at Sherry, he put up a 115. And look at that. He just continues to he's made like 61k overall. He's still value, So, for anyone that has Brodie Grundy this week, in fact, this is probably something you may have planned to keep Grundy and then trade him out this round. But Grundy's 507k, and Grundy's made 25k overall. So you could still bring in Sherry, trade out Grundy, bring in Sherry, and you're making a good 50k or so, and you're getting in a player who's averaging 105, and he's been very consistent. So yeah, he's definitely worth bringing in. I mean, I guess it depends on your strategy. Are you wanting to trade in a player that is not going to be a premium ruckman? You're going to have to trade him again. So this is the question. Or you're wanting to just go right now, try and get Gawn and English in your team if you don't have them already. So yeah, bit of a decision to be made there. And now we come to LDU. Just a shocker of a game from LDU. I watched that game. He is better than that. He had 25 possessions, 18 were kicks, which is all right. 14 contested. So normally when a player is getting that much contested ball, it's generally an indication that they're fit, or they should be. Maybe it's just the intensity. He just doesn't have that intensity. I don't know why. But the other thing with the LDU for this game, 52% disposal efficiency. That has hurt his score. He would have probably clocked over 100, I reckon, if his disposal efficiency was better than that. So, see, this is the thing now. I'm tempted to trade him, but I've always been about keeping your premiums. And with LDU, I can understand many out there thinking, having all the criticism in the world for LDU. And that's fine. You got to cop that. I just really thought LDU with a full preseason would start off the year. And he did. He started off really well with the 121, but now it looks like those that jumped off him did the right thing. He's lost 71k now. And now I'm in a position where I just have to trade him. Sorry, not trade him. I want to trade him, but I just have to keep him because there's some other trades that I want to make. I've got to hold him again for another week. And if he just bombs out again, I don't know what to do. I might have to downgrade and then get a premium in, maybe get a Dawson in or something like that. I don't know. I really don't know. I might just have to hold him and just hope that that he has a good game this coming week. Who do North have? So they got Geelong, and that looks like it's at GMHBA Stadium. So, yeah. All right. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, there's not many that own LDU. I'm just one of the 6% that own him, so I'll move on. I won't keep going on about him, but yeah, just a bit disappointing. Yeah, so Zach Fisher put up a 75. I think some would have traded him out last week. So 75 is not bad, but that's what he just keeps putting out now. So look, 50, 101 in that game, but then in round 2, but then 70 and 75, rounds 3 and 4. So yeah, I think if you own him, you're probably moving him on. He's not really the pick that we thought he was going to be. Tom Powell, so he got a 73. Now, he ended up with 14 disposals, but 3 of those were only kicks, like 11 handballs out of those 14. Where he made all these points was he had 15 tackles. So you got to give him credit for that. Like 15 tackles, it's fantastic. So he saved his score with all those tackles. But he did have 4 clangers. He's lost 16 points there. So, Powell we brought in to get decent scores, but also to make some cash. So, he's made 99k, which is pretty good, but his break even is 70 now. So what do we do? Do we trade him now, or do we just hold him and just really hope? Because he's got the role. He's playing in the middle. Let's just have a quick look at his CBAs. So he had 77% CBAs. So he's got the roles, playing in the midfield. I think just with more games in the midfield, he's going to get more familiar with the role, and hopefully his form will improve. We've spoken before about his numbers as a junior. So I think he'll hopefully continue to just get more of that ball. It was a tough game. They were playing against Brisbane, and Brisbane have a fantastic setup, fantastic system, great players, tough midfield. So let's just see how he goes next week against Geelong, who it will be a tough game. at GMHBA Stadium, but Geelong don't have the strongest midfield, so hopefully players like LDU and Tom Powell can get more of the ball. So Colby McKercher, he had a 54. So his break-even starting to rise now. He's made 96k, break-even of 43. Hopefully he can make a little bit more money. We need another decent game out of him just to lower that break-even and to get some more cash out of him. But let's keep an eye on him because that 54 was not great. Because he really just didn't get enough of the ball, but his disposal efficiency was 46%. So, he's normally better than that. So maybe, hopefully, he'll improve this week. Another low score from Dersma, 43. And that's probably it for North. Moving on to the Port Essendon game. So Connor Rozee came out and had a massive game. 36 possessions, 20 of those were kicks. He kicked 3 goals, 16 contested. He had 6 clangers, so he's lost 24 points there. But when you get the ball 36 times, you're going to get the occasional clanger. And he scored a 152. So he's now averaging 114. I've said in the past in my videos that it just didn't sit right having Rozee in my team. It still doesn't, but I've got to stick with him now. I don't really want to make any sideways trades. I've got 5 premiums there in my midfield. I wanted to get to a bit of a guns rookies situation in my midfield, but I think ones like Miller will definitely get better. I mean, he's not putting an 89. The only one I'm concerned about within that midfield really is LDU. His form's kind of really dropped off. So, but I just got to stick with it. Just have to stick with it. I've got other things to sort out first. So, let's see. So Connor Rozee, Horn Francis though. It kills me not having Horn Francis. I was banging on about him all through preseason, and then in the end, what happened? I didn't pick him in my team. I was going to pick him, took him out at the last minute. Typical what ifs that could have happened, but anyway, he is in top form. If you've got him, or if you're looking at bringing him in and he works for your structure, get him. Because he is going to be a great cash cow. He's going to have a good year. He's averaging 122, a 112 and a 132. Yes, Ollie Wines wasn't in the team, but Wines was in the team when he got that 112. And if you've actually watched him play, he looks fantastic. He's just so exhilarating to watch. He's just his attack on the ball and his flair reminds me of a little bit of like when LDU was flying, or even a Dangerfield. So his third year breakout, I think if it works for your structure, then bring him in. If you've got him, then you're laughing, because I think he's just going to have a great year. Zach Butters, he got a 119, and again for his owners, you're happy with that. He's too expensive to bring in. He's gone up 21k. His break-even's 159, so I think this week he's probably going to drop a little bit. Yeah, good game, good score from him. Premium could very well be in that top 8 mids by the end of the year. Just looking further at some other players that I thought were relevant. I know Dan Houston got a 106. He did all right. So yeah, no one else that's of interest to me anyway. For Essendon, man, you got to love Zach Merritt. I keep saying it every week how awesome he is. He's gone up 18k. He's now 668k. He's averaging 131. What a beast. 127, 132, 131, 136. Man, just awesome. Man, if you own him, you're just so happy having him, and he's just a captain option every week. Nick Martin continues to make me feel sick in my stomach. So he put out a 133, 35 possessions, 7 marks, and score of 133. So this again is punishment to me, and I deserve it, because I was talking about Nick Martin all preseason, when the role change happened, even the first 2 games when he didn't score as well, I said stick with him and keep him. I got sucked in and I traded Martin to Sarong, and this is what happens. His last 2 weeks that I haven't had him in, he's gone 136 and 133. This is just the SuperCoach way, isn't it, sometimes? And it's all my fault. I will cop this one because he was part of the research I did, and I should have just backed him in, and I haven't backed him in. And sorry, I'm going on and on about it, but I just feel really rubbish about it. But for those of you that have got him and have kept him, 16% of teams, for those who've started him and stayed with him, well done. Good on you. You deserve it. He's going to have a great year, and he will likely be a top 6 defender by the end of the year. So you've got your top 6 defender there. You obviously trade someone out, bring Martin into defense, trade that person into either a rookie in your mids or premium in your mids. But after round 6, he will be a defender for sure, and he just keeps racking up that ball at the half back. Checking out Essendon, and yeah, there's no one really else I'm interested in. So West Coast and Sydney, we're looking at Elliot Yeo. Very happy with his game. I was really unsure about him, but he scored a 130. He had 28 possessions, 8 tackles, 13 contested possessions, and scored that 130. So really happy with his score. He made 26k from that score. His break even 67, so that means I can probably hold him for a little bit longer before considering to upgrade him. So let's see, 12% of teams own him. So yeah, he's gone up 41k overall, so he's paying off. So that was a good pick. And then Harley Reid came good. I mean, you may have had Harley Reid on the bench. I was lucky enough to actually pick Harley Reid on my field, so I got his 91. It wasn't looking good for him with his scoring, but 91, he went up 31k, 66k overall, break even of 12, so you're holding him for a bit longer. But I did watch this game, and he looked great. He was just, for an 18-year-old kid, he was just taking everyone on, doing the hand in the chest, the stiff arm, and just like Dusty, pushing off players and just using his brute force in the midfield. It was great to see, nice to see from a young player, and he scored a 91. So we'll keep him for a little bit longer. And then for West Coast, that's probably it. No one else really of interest. For Sydney, Sahini came good, a 165. It's kind of what we were maybe expecting for him against West Coast. We thought maybe Adams might have influenced his score in some way, but it didn't, because Heaney ended up only having the 26 possessions to get the 165, but he had 6 tackles, he kicked 2 goals, and he had 17 contested possessions. A 92% efficiency, and that's why he got his 165. So this is going to be the question, and we'll discuss this later, but do you trade him this week and then maybe bring him back, or do you hold him? It's going to be tough because many of us will have a fair few missing. There are, of course, some of us that have, like looking at my team, I've got Jordan, Heaney, Roberts, and Dacos. So my trades are going to be centered around trading out some of these Sydney players. But I'll get to my trades in a moment. It's probably going to bite me, but it was part of my initial plan. My initial plan was to start Heaney because of that big score that he got, and then at his bye, trade him out. Same with Jordan. I wanted to trade Heaney and Jordan out. I think with Roberts, though, his break-even is only 14, which means he's got some more cash to make. Plus, looking at my team, I could just bring in Sharp for Roberts, and I don't think I'm really losing anything there. So that works out quite well. Dacos, I'm obviously going to be losing a bit there because Howe's well, probably I'm going to be trading Howes, but I'll be losing a bit there. But with Heaney and Jordan, I think my potential trades would be to bring in English and Flanders. So we'll see anyway. That's what I'm looking at, but I'll discuss my trades a bit later. But moving on, Errol Goulden, another good game from him, 129. He's come back really well after the start that he had to the season. He got that 77 and then even a 73 last week, but he's only lost like 14k, 15k overall now, so he hasn't lost by much, but his break-even's 145. I mean, obviously with these Sydney players I'm talking about, you're not bringing them in because they've got their bye this round, but these are players maybe to consider the following week. So Grundy got a 93, again, a player you're not bringing in, but probably a player you're trading out. You're either upgrading him to a Gawn or an English, or you're downgrading him to a Sherry. So it's either one of those options, but yeah, I think he's a player that you would or should be trading out this week. Matt Roberts, as I mentioned, continues to do well. I'm holding him. Some may trade him. He's already made for us 179k, so he's done his job. We want our rooks to make 150k. He's already done that, but there is still a bit of cash we can squeeze out of him. James Jordan, he's got to go. Just has to go now. This is the week to do it. He's now scored 65 and 57 in his last few games, so he definitely has to go. He's made 75k. He's averaged 75, so I guess he's kind of done his job, and now it's time to just upgrade him. So there probably will be, if you haven't upgraded him already, which I think many would have done it last week, but it's definitely has to be done this week. And that's probably it for that game. Fremantle and Carlton. So Jeremy Sharp was the big surprise packet there. He top scored 126. He had 29 possessions and 7 marks, kicked a goal as well, 89% disposal efficiency. So what a game, but boy, that was tough to see that score and then have him on the bench. Would have really helped to have had his score on the field, but I think a few of his owners would have had him on the bench. So, but it's great for us now, you know, having that big score. He's made 131k overall, went up 70k just from that score this week. Negative 51 break even. So if we've got him, if we've started him, there's, you know, a good 61% of the competition that don't own him. But for us that own him, we're just ecstatic with that score because now we can actually get some more cash out of him. And if we've got Roberts as well, he's a great player to bring in for Roberts this week. Andrew Brayshaw, he had a good game, a 124. So he's lost 10k overall, which means that he's pretty much just averaging what he normally does. A 102, 123, 97, and now a 124 in round 4. So a good game from him. And that's kind of what his scores is going to be like. There's a bit of a mixed bag with him. Hayden Young, again, just like Martin, is going to continue to hurt us who traded him when he was on the bubble. So he put up another good score. But look, this is the thing with Hayden Young. Now, you know, it's tough. I mean, you're probably a little bit stubborn too. If you've traded him out, do you trade him back in? Such a waste. You just feel like it's a waste of a trade. But, you know, his last couple of weeks, like 132, 119, he's the player that we all thought he was going to be, that value pick at 518k. You know, even with all of even with these 2 scores last week, he's actually still cheaper. He's 6k cheaper. He went up 10k this week, but still 6k cheaper. So, you know, like I'm looking at like a Will Powell and I'm thinking, oh man, like maybe I make that trade instead and just get Will Powell to a Hayden Young and just fix that up again. Now, if I do that, of course, the usual thing will happen and Hayden Young will score a 50 and Will Powell will score a 100 this week. And that's generally what happens. But anyway, if you don't have Hayden Young and you're looking to upgrade, he's definitely an option to bring in. 45 break even now, and he's only 518k. And these scores, the 132, 119, this is what we expected from him. If we have a look at his game, he had 25 possessions, 9 tackles, he had 10 contested possessions. And just looking at his CBAs, he had he had 82% pretty much CBAs, which was the highest CBAs of any midfielder for Fremantle. So he's got the role. The role is there. So if you don't have him, this is probably the week to bring him in. If you had him and traded him out, do you bite that bullet and bring him back in? Tough call to make, but it could be one of those sacrifice plays that could pay off in the long run. So Luke Ryan continues his great form. He scored a 111, and he is looking to be a top 6 defender. So he's gone up 32k overall. But if you look at these scores, 165, 127, 130, 111. So yeah, he's a premium defender. I don't think I'd upgrade him at the moment. He's maxed out in price. What he has shown, or maxed out, but his price is too expensive. But he's shown in the past that he can have the occasional game where he drops his price a little bit. So I'm just probably holding out for that a little bit. Nat Fyfe I mentioned, I traded him out and then he pulls out a 102. So as we've already spoken about, you're not bringing him in, but you're definitely holding if you've got him. Caleb Sarong, a 94. Really disappointing. It was at one stage, it wasn't actually looking good at all, but he came back. So he did all right to get that 94. I think any premium mid, like the premium mid against Carlton, is really going to struggle this year. They're doing a great job shutting down their premium mid player of the opposition, or the opposition's premium mid player. And even moving on to Jackson, I was expecting more from Jackson, but only a 91. He's made 50k and he has scored for us, but those last 2 games, 98, 91, that's not very encouraging to see. And Sean Darcy is back this week, so this is the call. Do we keep Jackson or do we trade him out? I think if you can trade him out, trade him out. My plan was to trade him out. My plan was actually to trade Jackson, Heaney, and Jordan this round. From round 1, that was my plan when I got to this round. I didn't expect Powell to be there because I didn't back my trades. But I'm just having a think about whether I do that, whether I go, Jordan, maybe down to another player, a Rook or someone like that, and then Heaney up to Flanders or to Flanders and Jackson to English. Anyway, I got a few things to think about there, what I do. Jordan Clark, an 84, so he's still in good nick, still in good form, still playing well. He's gone up 54k now, but look at his scores, 108, 119, 119, and then 84 this round. So just a little drop off there. And then for the rest of these plays for Freo, no one really of interest. Draper, some might have brought in Draper, and he had a bit of a shocker. 21 points in 92% game time. He was playing a shutdown role as well, playing on Kerno. Obviously he tried to do his best. He's just a rook. So Kerno did well, came back, kicked 3 goals. So and good segue. Moving on for Carlton, they had a few players who scored quite well. Harry Mackay only scored a 75, but that's still okay for those that own him. But I was looking, of course, for Zach Williams, and he scored an 81. So I'm really happy with that. Made 27k from that score, 59k increased overall. Only a 7 break even, so he's doing his job as a cash cow. And Jack Carroll, that was all right as well. 66. That score took him increased his price by 45k. He's increased 106k overall, and got a break even of 1. So at this stage, he's actually doing his job. I'd say he's got the job security as well. And looking at the CBAs. Where are we? So looking at Carlton CBAs, I might have gone past it. There we go. So he had 54% CBAs. That's great. So the roll's good. and he's getting a bit of time in the midfield, so I'm happy making money off him. But aside from that, there's not really a lot there. And Oliver Hollins, was it Oliver Hollins? No, Elijah Hollins was a bit tough. So he's, after his big score last week, scored a 19, and then he injured, or probably got a corky, I think it was, injured his right thigh. But yeah, anyway, moving on. Western Bulldogs and Geelong. So Libba had a big score. I think he came back from last week's score, so a 155 from him, Bont 141, and English 117. So they all came good and scored quite well. So I'm hoping to bring in English this week. And Sam Darcy, that's very fortunate. It didn't look like, the way he started, didn't look like he was going to get and finish with an 84 for the game, but he did. And if we brought him in, we'd be ecstatic. He made 80k, and his break even is negative 21. I would say his job security is pretty good, but you never know with Bevo. Riley Sanders, again, 82, keeps doing good things. 108k overall increase, 56k this week, and a break even of 8. So he continues to make cash for us and score fairly well for a rook. Looking through that list, so Buku Kamas, I think some brought him in or started him because he was a cheap rook in the forward line. So how's he going? He's only 4% owned, so there's not many, but he's made 102k overall, negative 6 break even. That's all right. Harvey Gallagher, I don't know if anyone brought him in. I'll just have a quick look. So only 3% owned, so yeah, no one really brought him in. And I guess we keep an eye on Jack McRae. Only scored a 37, started as the sub. His price is just going to drop, and we just have to hope that Bevo will eventually use him. I mean, when he came on, he was used in the midfield. He did score a 37 in 23% game time. So looking at the Bulldogs CBAs, McRae had 12% CBAs. I haven't got the stats on, how many CBAs he attended while he was on the ground, but in comparison to the number of CBAs that was available to attend. But he did well when you look at that score, 37 from 23% game time. Hopefully Bevo plays him full time, and he keeps dropping in price, and then we can get him on the cheap. So looking at Geelong now, and Max Holmes, I don't know if you've got him, but it's a 97 for him, good score. Oliver Dempsey, he just continues to make cash for us. As you saw last week, I missed his 71k increase, but he increased again by 45k this week, negative 14 break even, and he's averaging 80. He's just the rook, a great rook to have, when you can have a player averaging 80 as a rook. So he'll continue to make money for us. So Tom Stewart, not a great game this week. He had a 77. So because of that, he loses 21k, break even of 168 now. He's lost 33k. So if you don't own him, then he's one to just keep an eye on. And hopefully he loses a bit more cash when we're looking at upgrading our defenders. But he will likely be a top 6 defender, so we'll be looking at getting him in at some point. And Jai Clark, well, yeah, we'll be getting rid of him soon. So he's gone up 62k overall, went up 30k this week. He's got an 11 break even. The job security is there. He is being used. He did have 56% CBAs, so the role's there, but he's just not ready yet to put out the kind of numbers that some of these other rookie mids are. And that's probably it. So moving on to the Gold Coast and GWS game today. And Matt Rowell just continues to be a beast. probably that player that we should have jumped on, because if you look at his scores, just 137, 155, 99 last week, but then 129. He's 18% owned, so he's making his owners very happy. Sam Flanders, that also makes me sick. My stupidity of not bringing him in last week. And he ended up going up by 24k and Jordan only 6k. So I've lost 18k by not bringing him in. But I will be bringing him in this week, definitely. So he is 552k, which is pretty good price still for him, for someone who's averaging 119, break even of 89. He's gone up 58k overall, but he definitely will be a top 6 forward. So yeah, we want to be getting him in as quick as we can if we don't own him. He's already owned by 43%, but I would say that will go up quite a bit this week. So Sam Clohessy was the surprise of the round. So there wouldn't have been many that brought him in, I don't think. So only 4% owned, but that will change this week and definitely next week. So he scored a 108. He had 22 possessions, 8 marks. He kicked a goal as well. And a fantastic first game for him playing in defence. And he's a 102k rook as well, so but a mature age rook. So yeah, looks like he's probably cemented his spot in defence. And even with Flanders too, for that matter. I just want to have a quick look at the CBAs, because he spent a bit of time in defence, Flanders. So Flanders, according to this, didn't have any CBAs, I don't think. And it looks like because when I was watching this game, I only got to see a little bit of it, but he looked like he was playing a bit in defence or starting at half back. So I reckon that's the move they've made. I think I read an article just before about Hardwick happy with keeping Flanders at half back. And if that is the case, oh boy, the numbers he's going to put up this year. So hopefully we can all, if we don't have him, hopefully we can bring him in this week. So he's definitely going in, and same with Sam Clohessy. I am likely going to be bringing him in this week, probably trading Howes down to him, but I haven't had a look at other defenders to choose from, but likely I will probably pick him. Mac Andrew, that came out of nowhere. He was playing probably the role that Will Powell probably would normally play, that sort of role across half back as well, and playing in defence. Not really probably Mac Andrew. It was probably more Sam Flanders that was taking a fair bit of the ball off Will Powell playing at half back. But Mac Andrew did very well. Let's see, that's his first game for the year. And he has scored a 101. He is a 304k defender. So yeah, we're probably not really paying too much interest in that. Touk Miller, really disappointing. 89. We're expecting better from him. 23 possessions and an 89. He had 63%. He was that third midfielder in there with Rowell and Anderson. But I guess we just write that off and expect Miller to pick it up next week, hopefully. Will Graham was the other defender rook, 117k rook for Will Graham, and he did all right as well. He scored a 67, so let's keep an eye out on him when he's on the bubble at the end of next week. So Will Powell, for those that do own him, is a real disappointment. Only 2% owned, so he was my pod. I won't talk about him a lot because, of course, not many people own him. But yeah, I just wanted to have that pod in there. But again, I didn't follow my rule. I should have traded him to Sheasel. I'm going to have to deal with that now. But he was averaging 111 before this round. Scores of 123, 118, and 92. Not too bad for his first 3 games. But anyway, yeah, let's just move on. And Ethan Reed was the other rook. How much is he? Yeah, but he's a 171 ruck, so we're not really looking at him. He scored a 44. Tom Berry continues to disappoint. There was a few that jumped on him. He scored a 41, but that's the way it is with these pressure forwards. He still made 23k, so that's still pretty good. But 67 break even now, and he's made 67k overall. Scores of 24 and 41 in his last 2 games, so probably time to get rid of him. Looking at the Giants, Tom Green, we did expect a bit more from him. Only 23 possessions and 13 were handballs. He did have 8 tackles and 11 contested possessions, so that helps, but 3 free kicks against and 4 clangers. So, yeah, that's not ideal. So that's probably something like 24 points that he's lost there. So, yeah, but, you know, Tom Green's a champ, so he'll come back bigger and better next week. And then looking through, Himmelberg did all right there. Whitfield, an 87, could have done better, but had 5 clangers. So he's lost 20 points there. But yeah, he'll still be a really good defender to keep or bring in for that matter. What's his 553k, break even of 105. I guess we could look at bringing him in if you wanted to upgrade to a premium. Scores of 108, 118 and 124 in his first 3 games is pretty good. But moving on, and where are we with GWS? So Jacob Weir, there might be a few that own him because he was a 123k mid-rook. 9% owned, so yep. He's made 84k overall, 41k this week, and he's a negative 20 break even, so yeah, he's doing all right. And then Cadman was the other one. We were hoping to get a bit more out of Cadman, but he only scored a 50. But, you know, 112k overall he's made. You got to be happy with that, and he's got a negative 3 break even. So pretty happy if you've got him. Continue to make that cash for us. Harvey Thomas, I don't know if anyone brought him in. I doubt it. But I actually didn't. I think I might have checked this already. Sorry. But yeah, well, 12% of teams. So he's made 89k, 32 this week, negative 7 break even. So he's making his own as cash. So moving on to the second last game, and that's Richmond St Kilda. Looking through the Richmond team. So Tom Brown, okay, so that was a big surprise. Tom Brown, for those that brought him in, 13% owned. We were expecting more of a 60 score from him, but he has scored a 95. He had 18 possessions, 10 contested, and he did quite well playing in defense. So he's going to score that every week? I don't think so, but look, if you brought him in, that's awesome. That's great. Didn't expect him to get a 95, and now you're going to make some cash out of him. Jaden Short, a 66. So again, so disappointing. You just got to get rid of him. Seth Campbell, if you own him, a 57. He's making that little bit of cash there. And that's probably it for Richmond. For St Kilda, there's a few here. So Rowan Marshall, a 147. It's going to be between English and Gawn and Marshall for those top 3 rucks. Let's just have a quick look at Marshall. So he's lost 33k overall, 8k this week. He's a 120 break even. So if you're looking at upgrading to a ruck, he's an option. If you can't really afford English and you want to get another premium ruck, then Rowan Marshall would have to be that player. Jack Steele, what a beast. Man, I wish I'd started him. He continues to put up the big numbers, but more importantly, look at as I've been saying the last few weeks, his tackle numbers and his contested possessions are always up. So he's made 60k now, 31k. Look, I don't think it's too late to bring him in, but I think this is the week. If you're going to bring in a Jack Steele, this is the week to bring him in. I don't think you can afford to wait another week. He's going to go up again another 30k or so, or 20 to 30k. So, you want to get him under 600k. But he had 33 possessions, 21 were handballs, but still, nevertheless, he had 10 tackles and 18 contested possessions. So he is in great form, Jack Steele. I guess that's when you got a Jack Steele fully fit. This is what you get. Jack Sinclair, a 124, so he scored quite well. I think between Sinclair, Wanganeen, Malira, and Bonner, there's always going to be taking points off each other, but in this game they actually all did quite well. So Sinclair, he lost 22k this week. Well, that's his first price change, and he's down to 573k, 115 break even. So there's every chance he could get that this week. So if you're wanting a premium defender, Jack Sinclair is an option at 573k. Wanganeen Malira, I don't know whether you're bringing him in now. You've probably missed the boat there. He's gone up 37k, went up 19k this week, break even of 88. I mean, look, he's only 513k, so if you wanted to bring in a defender that's a little bit on the cheap, he is an option, but he's going to be putting up these numbers every now and then. Riley Bonner, so he scored an 88, and so he continues to do his owners proud. So he's gone up 67k now overall, 25 this week. He's got a 9 break even, and he's averaging 85. So yeah, he's doing his job. You've got to be pretty happy with that. Like I said, I initially was a bit unsure how he would go with Sinclair in the team, but the last 2 games have been pretty decent from him. So looking through St Kilda, Darcy Wilson, so he's scored a 58. He has made 56k overall, went up 21k this week, 24 break even. We're not going to make the cash from him we hoped, so we'll just keep an eye on him, how long we can ride him out before trading him out to another rook and making some cash off him. And so that's it. The last game, Collingwood Hawthorn, and Dacos, he didn't do too bad considering the tag. So he was tagged by McGuinness, particularly in that first half, but Dacos still did all right. But then that tag kind of loosened a little bit when Hawthorn got a little bit more aggressive to try to get back in the game, which they did, and they nearly won. So maybe that's something in the future that Sam Mitchell looks at. Maybe he doesn't look at tagging Dacos, because whenever teams have not tagged Dacos this year, they still have won. So that could be a thing in the future. He still scored a 102, considering he did get tagged a bit. 26 possessions, but 14 were handballs. Kicked a goal. And I think this will be good for him. He'll have a break this week, and I reckon he'll come back and come back quite strong off the bye. As far as the rest of the Collingwood team, there's no one really SuperCoach relevant. McInnes got a 45 if you did bring him in. But looking at the Hawks, so Carl Amon, 112, didn't do too bad. Jai Newcomb, so he got a 110, and he actually looked really good. So he's really dropped. He's dropped 58k, dropped 12k now this week. 87 break even. If you think that he is now starting to come good, then he could be a great option at 491k. Personally, I would, if you're looking at a player like that, I'd be going Horn Francis at 433k because he looks fantastic. James Sicily, a 95. So he continues to just lose a little bit more cash. So he's lost 63k overall. 13k this week, break even of 144, and his price is only 574. So let's let him bottom out and then look at maybe bringing him in after that. Let's see, looking through D'Ambrosio, he's kind of getting a bit disappointing. So his last couple of games, he's scored a 68 and a 63. He made 23k this week, 91k overall, but his break-even is 49, and we really need a decent score from him to make more cash off him. But if he continues to score the way he is, there's not much to go. And then maybe after that round 6 bye, might be the move. We maybe upgrade him or downgrade, whichever way we're going to go. Then looking through the rest of this team, no one really of interest. So that's it. That's all the games and some of the players to consider for this week. So looking at the break-evens, that's sort of before I start looking at trades, it's good to have a look at the break-evens, who is players to keep in mind. So Sam Clovis, he's got a negative 68 break-even. He's not on the bubble, though he will be next week, but you may want to go early on him, potentially. Charlie Comben, negative 40 break-even, and Tom Brown is still a negative 33 break-even, but he's already gone up by 59k. Sam Darcy, similar thing, negative 21 break-even. He's gone up by 80k. Keep in mind Max Ramsden, so he's a 123k forward rook. He scored 71 and he's a negative 22 break-even, so let's keep an eye on him. And then scrolling down, some of these I've already spoken about. And yeah, there's not really anyone else worth probably mentioning. Yeah, Carl Warner, let's keep an eye on him. 134k defender. Let's see if he can get back into the team. So yeah, as far as the negative break-evens go, they're probably the main ones. Jason Horne-Francis, so he's averaging 132. He's got a four break-even. So it's going to be tough not bringing him in this week. I would really love to bring him in. I'd love to have him in my team, but I don't think I can do it. So that's probably it of players you would look at bringing in with that really low break even. But let's have a look at the high break evens. So players to keep an eye on that would drop in price. So Jack McRae, 223 break even. He is going to bleed cash. Darcy Parish is a 193k break even. He's where are we? So he's played 2 games, scored an 80 and a 72. So let's keep an eye on how much cash he loses. So Tom Stewart is a 168k break even. He's lost 33k as I mentioned earlier. 21k this week, 168k break even as I mentioned. LDU, if you're thinking about waiting till he bottoms out and bringing him in, yep, could be a play, especially if he starts to pick up form. Zach Butters, 159k break, or 159 break even, and he might lose some cash. Pretty difficult. He might lose a little bit of cash, but probably not a lot. Clayton Oliver, as I mentioned earlier, is that 1. Tim English, 2. I mentioned Caleb Sarong, if you want to get onto him because of his low score that he got this round, a 153 break even. Unlikely that we'll be looking at Jackson, even though he's got a 152 break even. And yeah, not really anyone else. There's break evens from these premiums here that you'd expect them to have, but not move much. Bontempelli, he's lost 26k overall, 147k break even, but he's 697k, so he'll stay around that price. Errol Goulden, similar situation. James Sicily, I mentioned before. So yeah, there's just a few to keep in mind as far as the negative break-evens go, but also the ones high up. Let's just wait till they bottom out. So going to my team and what I'm looking at this week. So as far as my players go, obviously I've got to move Dacos off. I'll bring Howes on, but Howes I'm likely going to trade to Cloesy. And then I've got Roberts on my field, so let's get him off and bring Sharp on. And then let's have a look at when some of these games are. So Carroll play, because I want to try to loophole some of these players. So maybe I could loophole Carroll. If Carroll scores well, I could bring him on for McKercher or even Sharp if he has a really big score. And then for my rucks, I'll just bring Jackson back on the ground. But yeah, likely I will probably, I don't know if I'm going to trade Jackson or not. Still unsure what I'm going to do there. And then Heaney, again, thinking about trading him, not too sure. I will bring Darcy on, though, for Cadman. Keep Cadman as my emergency. But Jordan is definitely going out, and Flanders is definitely coming in. But what else I do, it's either Heaney or Jackson to English. Now, this is obviously a Sunday trade, so let's just wait and see later in the week. I might make those changes. As far as the VC and the C go, I mean, it's pretty tough not to keep your VC on Gawn. Or if you've got English, put the VC on English against, Gawn's up against McInerney. So if we have a look at the projected scores, you've got Gawn projected for a 169. He obviously does quite well against Brisbane and McInerney, so it might be that he is the option. English, just want to have a quick look at what his projected score is. So his is 135. So yeah, maybe we can put the VC on Gawn. That's what I might do. And then probably actually even go into English. That might actually be the play. GWS plays St Kilda, maybe Green, but I actually think that's what I'll be doing. I'll be bringing in English, and I'll be going Gawn into English, I think, for my VC and my C. So Gawn plays Thursday night, English plays Friday night. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing. So as I mentioned with my trades, at this stage, likely my trades will be Howes to Clohessy, and Jordan to Flanders, and then Heaney, bringing Jackson into my forward line, and then Heaney to English, or Jackson to English. And that, I think, will probably leave me anywhere between, depending on which way I go, anywhere between 15 to 50k spare. So that probably will be what I will do, but we'll wait to see later in the week. So look, hopefully guys, you actually had a good SuperCoach weekend, unlike myself. Hopefully you had a good score and you moved up in the rank. Again, lesson learned here is just sticking by my plans. If I had stuck by my plans from the beginning, my rank would be actually quite high. So it's another lesson learned for next year. Make notes and remember that next year. But at least this year, I need to still keep to my strategies and my plans as well. So hopefully you have a really good week and a good coming week with your SuperCoach team and with your trades. I'll hopefully try to put out a video later in the week, but it's probably unlikely. I don't really get much time to do these videos. So I will put this one out and then likely catch up with you again at the end of round 5. So all the best, and I'll catch up with you soon.